In today's video lesson, we're going to cover how to talk about routines or habits in the past. To get started, let's do a pop quiz. Which of these sentences are incorrect? When I lived in Florida, I would wear shorts every day to school. Before the pandemic, we used to go to the movies on Sundays as a family. She used to be a journalist, but last year she got her teaching degree. I would live in New York as a teenager. As a child, I would love to eat peanut butter on toast for breakfast. If you guessed the last two, then that's right. If you weren't sure, stay tuned and you'll learn why these examples are incorrect. A lot of English language proficiency exams, like the IELTS, have a speaking proficiency test. Usually, you'll end up getting a question that deals with describing something you would or used to do in the past. For instance, they might ask you questions like, what was it like growing up in your hometown? Or, what was your favorite holiday as a child? When answering these types of speaking prompts, you're required to use structures that convey routines or habits in the past. By employing different grammatical structures like used to and would, you'll get a higher score. Many students of English assume would is used exclusively in the conditional tense. For example, I would go to the store, but it's too late now. We would love to visit Egypt in the future. However, we can also use would to describe past routines or habits. Many students forget this usage and often resort to using the construction used to repeatedly. This makes your sentence less cohesive and wouldn't do much to impress your English teacher examiner. Let's take a look at a few examples. When I lived in Florida, I would wear shorts every day to school. Every summer as a child, we would go to the cottage. When the boys got home from school, they would do their homework right away. In each of these examples, we're talking about a routine in the past, something we did on multiple occasions over a period of time. In many cases, you can substitute the simple past instead of would, but it's not going to emphasize the habitual nature of the action. It would also be unclear if it was in fact a routine. For example, you could say, when I lived in Florida, I wore shorts every day to school. Or, every summer as a child, we went to the cottage. But perhaps the person listening to the speaker might not understand that these were regular routine actions. Using would puts emphasis on the habitual nature of the action. Remember, if you're describing something you did just once in the past, then always use the simple past. For example, one time when I was living in Florida, I visited the Everglades. Or, one summer, we didn't go to the cottage at all. We can also ask questions and form negatives using would to describe past actions. Let's see an example of how to form a question. When you were in high school, would you have lunch at school? Notice that to form a question, the auxiliary verb would must switch places with the subject. Would you have lunch at school? Not, you would have lunch at school? We can also form negative sentences using would to describe past actions. Let's see an example. On my way home from work, I wouldn't drive through that neighborhood because it had a bad reputation back then. When forming the negative, we must add not or make the contract wouldn't. So we could say, I wouldn't or I would not. Keep in mind that native English speakers tend to almost always use contractions in speech. Now that we're covered how to use would to describe past routines or habits, let's look at how to use used to. In all of the above examples, we can replace would with used to. Let's see a few examples. When I lived in Florida, I used to wear shorts every day to school. Every summer as a child, we used to go to the cottage. Okay, so that's the end of the video, right? Nope. Let's cover a few situations in which you would use used to describe the past, but you wouldn't use. First, let's check out how to form questions and negative sentences. Let's take a previous example and replace would with the past form of used to. When you were in high school, did you used to have lunch at school? Notice how we must use did to form the question in the past, and then the present tense of the verb to use. Don't make these mistakes. Did you used to have lunch at school? You used to have lunch at school? So we already know we can use used to in place of would to describe routines and habits. Basically, any action that occurs regularly on multiple occasions over a period of time. But what about these examples? She used to be a journalist, but last year she got her teaching degree. I used to live in New York as a teenager. As a child, I used to love to eat peanut butter on toast for breakfast. In all of these examples, we aren't just talking about a routine or multiple actions, but rather states of being in the past. Things we used to be, do, or feel that we don't anymore. It's not an action we actually did multiple times. What constitutes a state of being? Here are some helpful tips. Professions. She used to be a journalist. Physical characteristics. I used to have short hair. Permanent actions in the past. I used to live in New York as a teenager. And finally, state of verbs, which usually express feelings or opinions on something. Some of the most common state of verbs include love, hate, believe, want, need, feel, and know, among many others. Here are a few examples. As a child, I used to love to eat peanut butter on toast for breakfast. I used to believe in Santa Claus when I was a child. In all of these examples, we can't replace used to with would. So going back to our pop quiz, you can see why the following two examples were incorrect. I would live in New York City as a teenager. In this case, we must use used to. The correct sentence is, I used to live in New York as a teenager. This is a permanent action in the past. This next example is incorrect because a state of verb is used. As a child, I would love to eat peanut butter on toast for breakfast. The correct sentence is, as a child, I used to love to eat peanut butter on toast for breakfast. So if you want to diversify how to talk about past actions, try using would to impress your examiner or native speakers. But be careful, only use it when talking about habits or routines that consist of repeating actions. I hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoy watching, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell and share with your friends. We'd love to see your practice. Add a sentence using would in the comments below, and we'll correct it for you. Keep practicing and good luck with your English exam.